everybody. Welcome to week 4 of ESL Hearthstone's Legendary Series. It's time for the main event because today is Saturday and we get to see 8 players duke it out for points as well as seeding that goes directly to our $20,000 LAN finals. My name is Frodan. Today I'm joined by Azuma once again to bring you guys the action. TJ, how you doing today?
Doing great, man. We saw some pretty great action from the Open Finals that we broadcasted yesterday. Not too much GVG infused into a lot of these decks, but
not yet.
we're starting to see a little bit of innovation. Hopefully some more today.
That's right. People, even though GVG is coming out, this is the first week of it officially, it's still in the works. People aren't exactly sure what's the best. Some people are playing more conservative. They're saying, I'm just going to take advantage of people that are trying out too many crazy things and play more standard.
Yep.
It seems to be that case too. I expect a lot of the Zoos, the Handlocks, the Warriors, the Druids being very normal as well. So but I also looking at the field of players today, and I'm liking some of the deck builders that we have available to us. There's Backspace that's here.
Yep.
We also have Dog, who's really into playing his own very control-y style decks. It's going to be a really fun time, I think.
Yeah, we can actually take a look at the brackets right now. So other players to mention you can see on your screen there. Powder Backspace, that's going to be the first matchup. Waifu is going to take on Forsen immediately after that. And then rounding off the bottom side of the bracket, Silent Storm. He's another player to watch as far as creative deck building goes. And Dog, and then of course Frozen versus Nyria to round it off. And this is a single elimination best of 5 bracket. And of course the top 2 players from today will also get an auto invite back to next week.
Yep, so that'll conclude the first 4 weeks, the halfway point of our main portion of the season, so to speak. It's a little bit hard to understand if you are just coming into it, but the most important thing is that they want to get top 2 this weekend so that they get an invite back from next week. Our previous was Silent Storm as well as Brian Kibler, but Brian Kibler couldn't actually make it this week. So we decided to slide the invite to another week, and then instead it went down to the highest place finisher, which was a member of my Hearth U, so that was Powder, so he's going to step in for this week. Yeah,
so there should be a lot of fun stuff today. There's a lot of big-name players here, a lot of great players, even the players that came through the open brackets. Mm-hmm. We saw Frozen yesterday make it through, and of course Waifu as well. They were really strong players, and then from last week as well, Silent Storm really surprised us with how well he was playing in some of those matches, and I think he's going to be one of the players to watch, not only in this tournament, but in the future as well. He's definitely a solid Hearthstone player.
Yeah, I think so. I think Silent Storm has brought his own brand of Hearthstone, as I think he's definitely a player who's not conforming to the standard norm of the metagame. He didn't even bring Hunter or Warlock in the last week, and he won the whole thing. So I think he's a player that will definitely catch people's attention very soon. And we'll see him in the third match of the day against Dog. And the first match, like you guys saw on stream, will be Powder versus Backspace. This one's really cool because Powder is a player that's been on the up and rise. He actually just 3-0'd Hosty in the Kingwin event. So looking to see if he can climb back up. And in the meantime, we have Backspace from Team Archon, who recently joined them. I believe as a player and a manager. I'm not exactly sure on the exact details, but Backspace is a player that's been well known for being able to help out with his deck building behind the scenes, and as well as a little bit of his attitude as well. Backspace has definitely got a lot of sass and flair if you ever get to know him personally.
Oh yeah, and you can see these guys' decks right up on your screen there. The first matchup is going to be Warrior versus Paladin. And then the second match is going to be the same thing, just they're going to reverse roles.
Yeah, so for people who are tuning in for the first time, this format, the way it works, is more akin to what you see on Ladder. So we have the players submit 3 decks in the very beginning. So they blind pick. They don't really know what class they are. They're just going to submit a lineup. And they have to spread it out each one time. They can't just play Warrior until it loses.
Yeah.
When game 4 comes around, if it comes around, then from that point on, you can play whatever you want. It's just a blind pick. It gives it more of that feel. You know all 3 decks that your opponent is bringing, and as a result, you get to choose based off that knowledge.
Yeah, the format's pretty interesting because it makes it so you can't really be greedy with tech choices in a lot of your decks. You can't bring a certain deck just because it counters something else. Unless you're you're really confident that you're going to get matched up against something.
It pulls the win percentages closer than you might think.
Yeah.
Because it keeps decks more honest. And the most important thing is we're not going to see a 3-0 with one deck like Zoo or Hunter. They're going to have to spread out their skills a little bit as we go into the first game. Warrior versus Paladin. Now, I was saying this yesterday. Zumo, that I thought Paladin was highly underrepresented in the previous days' games, because I thought Paladin is one of the best classes now that GVG's come out.
Yeah.
And I was really surprised not to see it be played much.
Yeah, I think today is going to be a little bit different. I agree with you there. I think it's a really strong deck. I especially think it's strong against Control Warrior, which is making a comeback. Well, not necessarily a comeback, but it's sort of gaining more popularity with a lot of these new cards. And I think actually more than half the players today are bringing Paladin.
Good.
So that's always good to see. You can see the mulligans here. Backspace, throwing in some explosive sheeps into his Control Warrior.
Yeah, Explosive Sheep is a very strong tool, just because it synergizes so well with mainly the 1 damage as well as the whirlwind effects.
Yep.
So Explosive Sheep is really good for defensive nature.
Yep.
No one has quite yet picked up on another way to build Warrior, but I think that just requires some time. I think there's going to be eventually a way to scale Warrior a little bit more mid-rangey. Depends on how people see it fit.
Yeah.
I mean, you have that screw junk cluster thing, right?
Yeah.
+2+. It's like a Houndmaster for mechs.
Yeah, nobody's really experimented with that yet. I put that in my Hobgoblin Warrior deck, though. It synergizes.
Sounds awful.
You Hobgoblin a Warbot, and then you throw that 2/5 clunker onto it. All of a sudden, you have a 5/7 Warbot. How do you deal with that? You don't. You lose.
I guess I just quit. I concede at that point, or I play Explosive Sheep.
Yep.
Deny that from being able to happen. Well, the Paladin and Knife Juggler does have a lot of innate synergy with its hero power, but Muster for Battle has been one of these really strong cards. Unfortunately, Powder has to make a tough decision. He has to give up his Knife Juggler. Doesn't get the immediate synergy, but still, Muster for Battle. How do you deal with this card effectively?
Yeah.
You have to. You can't like deal with it immediately. You have to use Whirlwind to clear off the 1/1s, and even then, it's like he still has the weapon.
Yeah. Or Explosive Sheep.
Or Explosive Sheep.
That's a great way. I like Muster for Battle, not only because it gives you a lot of value just innately in the card, but it also synergizes well with like Quartermaster.
Yeah,
and
of course.
things like that. So I really like that, and I'm looking for Paladins to start running like, well, not start running, but run again like Cult Masters and stuff like that. Because a turn 3 Muster for Battle, turn 4 Cult Master is actually a really strong play, and it can get you some additional card draw early on.
Yeah, Tide of Time was experimenting with that.
Okay.
At King Gwyn, he had, I believe, 1 Cult Master, maybe even 2, but it used it as a way to get some good card draw.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see another card being improved instead of just a new card being all flashy. Like old cards like Cult Master get more power.
Yeah.
So the Pilot Shredder here is actually very problematic. Although I believe there is a way that you can try and trigger the death rattles. Drawing a card here, I guess Backspace is going to prioritize that instead. See what 2-drop comes off of the Pilot Shredder as well. Just a second.
Whoa. That could be pretty dangerous, actually.
Yeah, you know, that's a pretty significant damage.
Yeah.
That's going the other way. You don't want to use, like, Execute.
Oh, no, not at all.
2-Elf is a little problematic. Maybe the Bomb Lobber can snipe it. Oh, that's really difficult, though. You can't guarantee that.
That's a really inconsistent play, and if you're using the weapon to clear off this Amani Berserker, you're taking 5 damage, and he's starting to get low. I mean, Paladins are definitely not known for their burst, but
nope.
I think they have more tools now to be able to do that than once upon a time.
Well, you know, that Zombie Chow being put out there makes him feel a little bit better, though.
Yeah.
Now he has ways to gain back health. Fire War Axe onto... And like the creatures usually hurts here at this point because you're at 20. But
yeah.
I still think you know, having the Zombie Chow out there is like, well, at least he can't turn around compared to a priest, which has the Alkanized Soul Priest.
Yeah. Still a little bit of an awkward situation for what he's gonna throw down after this.
Play the Explosive Sheep.
Explosive Sheep. Floating mana though. No, that's.
I mean. He's been floating mana the entire game, being uncomfortable. Powder, of course, is not what he wanted to see. Another AoE Whirlwind effect that attacks all creatures.
Yep. This seems like a little bit more of an aggressive type Paladin deck. He's running 2 Knife Jugglers in here. So that synergizes well with Muster for Battle also. But I'm not sure how many big threats that he's actually running in this deck. The only one we've seen is the Tyrion right there. but definitely different from the Paladin deck that we saw yesterday from Shoop. That was very, very control heavy.
Do you think he should have... Okay, so Powder chose to attack all face there and pass initiative to his turn.
Yeah.
That's okay, right?
Yeah.
Because as the Paladin, you're generally trying to play it slower. Even though you have Knife Juggler, which is more mid-range centric and slightly aggressive. Despite that, you're still okay taking it later on.
Yeah. Well, it depends, because I'm not sure, how, like I said, not sure just how many late game threats he's actually running.
Paladin?
Yeah, the Paladin.
Oh, he's got Tyrion in hand.
Yeah, but
usually that's
what
just
else?
one it is. Probably Lay on Hands and then some other mid-game creatures that might be able to be useful. I'm not sure if he's running Kodos.
Or Bolvar.
That is a possibility. You know, like there's a lot of mid-range threats usually in Paladin.
Yeah. You don't want to throw down the Tyrion, do you, right now?
Do.
Really?
You're pretty close to killing your opponent.
Yeah, that's true. You haven't really gone through like any type of removal, though.
Well, your opponent's going to be saving removal anyways. There's two trains of thoughts. One is that you save it so that way he's exhausted removal.
Yeah.
The other is he's going to have it eventually, so the earlier you get it out, the less chance he has of having it.
Yep. That's true. And you want to put pressure on it and force him to have that removal now, because the Warrior's just going to... It feels like the Warrior in this situation is just going to stabilize a lot better because he's got card advantage in his hand. You're not going to really get him in a better position than now to start trying to push for a win. Especially if this is a heavy mid-range Paladin, then he's going to get outgunned the further the game goes.
Well, it still can just have Knife Juggler, so that way it's good anti-aggro stabilization with Muster for battle. So, I mean, it's definitely a change-up. I don't know if the Knife Juggler will alert him immediately, though, of having exactly that it's going to be a mid-range aggressive version.
Yeah.
All right, well, the Ashbringer is out in full force. It's 15 damage available to be distributed. Paladin Shredder. So I think Backspace also is running Sneeds.
Yeah.
Which is just so powerful.
Yeah.
In the late stages of the game, especially in control matchups. And you have the Sneasel Shredder, so that way it imposes a big threat. Not to mention it also can drop like a Ragnaros after it dies.
Yeah, it's so sticky, and a lot of times in those control matchups, your opponent accounts for just being able to remove a legendary one turn, or remove a creature one turn, and then play a creature one turn, not have to deal with 2 creatures per turn. And even cards like Brawl aren't that great unless you can remove the Sneeds first. Because if you just Brawl with a big board with the Sneeds on it, then you're just going to be left with the legendary. And there's some Warriors that still keep like Ironbeak Owl in their decks. We even saw Spellbreaker yesterday. But a lot of Warriors, I think, are actually cutting some of the silences from their deck.
I think Owl is actually still really crucial, though, because Paladin has a really hard time chewing through things. Ooh, Flame Tongue Tome, that's actually funny. I haven't seen that yet. Wow, that's actually like a lot of damage being aimed right back at him. That's 12.
Wow.
12 with 4 more, that's 16.
He's 1 off lethal right now.
Jeez.
Wow, this is...
That's so funny, a Flame Tongue Totem.
Well, I mean, I guess either way, he'd probably be having 2 damage from the 2-drop. But this one's still pretty interesting. And
right, because you don't expect the synergy with like Muster for battle or like the hero power.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, everything's a Searing Totem. So he opts to do damage to the face. He's hovering over the idea of playing a Quality Consecrate to try and deal with it. You know, now that Grommash is out of the picture too, that's one of the main ways that Warrior can burst the Paladin out of the game.
Yeah.
And that's usually a big act of desperation. Powder is trying to go for the throat here. And it makes sense, granted that Paladin, I mean, his other option was to drop Alex Straza, and that didn't feel exactly good either. So Backspace is just trying to fight back as much for the board, but it doesn't seem like it's working out very well.
Yeah, he's contemplating whether or not he wants to actually use the Equality Consecrate or just take the 10 damage to face.
I think, well, you want to do the 5 damage to your opponent.
Yeah. Yeah, he thought about it for a second, and now he puts his opponent at 3. And he does still have the weapon available, so even if the board is cleared,
Well, that's a big draw. He's got a Whirlwind now.
Yeah.
Extras on his side. That's actually a really big draw now that I think about it for backspace.
Yeah, wow. Keeps himself alive.
Well, here's the thing. Backspace baited all of like the tools from Powder. He. No way.
Oh, yes.
This time for sure. Oh man, backspace. Well, it doesn't really matter if it was a Devastator or a Squirrel because it would have been taken out by the Ashbringer. But
Yeah.
at least if it was the 1-1, he probably wouldn't have to do anything.
Yeah, it's something.
So Powder's not happy. He's like, well, he got the 5-5 and it forced out my Ashbringer. Yeah, maybe this is a way. Maybe this is a way for backspace to climb back into the game. I think Ragnaros and Cool Taskmaster here is more than sufficient for this turn. If it hits the Tink Master, how on earth does Powder deal with this?
He doesn't, because I guess he does have the second Consecrate, so if he draws into Equality, he has a way to clear it. But then he's still got a lot of threats to be able to deal with it, and that's not going to do much at all.
Okay, well, the Muster for battle is actually pretty nice.
Yeah, it's going to give more targets for Rag to snipe out.
Yeah, absolutely. Does he play the Aldor, though? Does he want more targets? Does he even want to have ability to start fighting back? I guess it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, right?
Yeah.
The Aldor might be best served on a more legitimate target.
There's still some threats left in the deck.
Oh, sure, Dr. Doom. Or Dr. Boom, excuse me.
Yeah.
I'm going to be making that mistake a lot over the next couple of years. Guys.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I said Dr. Doom more time than Dr. Boom yesterday, so.
Oh, backspace is climbing back in here. And, you know, the Whirlwind effect will clear off a lot of these 1-1s in the next couple of turns.
Oh.
Shot to the face. I think he's really uncomfortable with the idea that there might be a few tokens, and if he draws another equality,
Yeah.
he'll have the ability of easily removing these with just the 1-1s. So I think that was not necessarily what backspace wanted.
Yeah.
It just cleared the Paladin's board.
Yeah, he's starting to sort of lose the card advantage he had as well, so.
Yeah, you
might
always
be a little
do as
scared.
Warrior, though.
Yeah.
Paladin's so good at fighting Warrior with, despite having lower resources.
Yeah.
Well, because look, I mean, he uses weapon to attack a 1-1.
Yeah, yeah. Because a Warrior, a lot of times, they're.
Oh, my goodness! Wow, Harrison Jones. I think he's also contemplating like how he wants to deal with the Sylvanas first before anything else.
He doesn't really have a clean way of dealing with
Can he
it.
legitimately like 50-50 to win the game here? If he like Dr. Booms and then attacks with the Death Bite, I think he can. No, that's too risky, I think, yeah. Way too risky. Dr. Boom first. So let's see if Sylvanas can steal one of those instead.
Yeah. Minimizing the chances that he
Oh
can get
man,
something good out of
if
this.
this hits Sylvanas and Sylvanas steals Ragnaros?
I don't even know.
Oh, so backspace dodged a bullet there.
I don't even know if that's gonna. Well, I guess with the Sylvanas on the board, he still has just a little bit of extra protection here, but
So
I'll bring him up to 14.
consecrate here, I guess.
You don't lay on hands?
Well, I guess you do need to lay on hands because you might die.
Yeah.
But the thing is, oh, you're right. I didn't pay attention to the health count. I was trying to think about ways you can interact with the board now that you have Sylvanas.
Yeah. If he consecrates, he could just die right now.
That's true. So you do lay on hands.
Yeah. If he lays on hands, he still can. I don't even know, because then what is he gonna do? Throw the Sylvanas into something to try and get Dr. Boomerang? Try and get Rag and then kill the Dr. Boom? I don't even know.
Yeah, that's probably his best bet.
Yeah.
Dr. Boom is so much damage.
Yeah.
So then what if he draws a quality off of this lay on hands? Then he equalities and then takes one of the creatures.
Yeah.
Oh!
This is
risky. The game is over! Because it looks like nothing is
Oh.
highlighted, and that is
Oh man.
6 damage to the dome, exact lethal. And Dr. Boom has locked the game.
And
Look at
that's
that.
a risky play, and it doesn't pay off. He had a few different chances. There's a little bit of complicated math involved in that one, but
So
didn't go his way.
his thought was very similar, which is like you consecrate, it hits Sylvanas,
Yeah.
Sylvanas takes Ragnaros, Ragnaros hits Dr. Boom,
Yeah.
you're back in the game.
Yeah.
Um,
But a lot of things had to go right for that to happen.
well,
in the
even
end.
if one bomb hit Sylvanas, and only one bomb hit him,
Yeah.
the maximum damage he could have done was 4.
Yeah.
So if that scenario still happened, Or even the opposite, like if he took Dr. Boom or something and then Dragon Rose hit Dr. Boom instead, it still give him a chance
Yeah.
to survive. Lay on Hands is like, well, I just concede that I can't do anything.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to be stuck with 2 mana, and I'm going to be taking a lot of damage.
Yeah. That's true.
So, from the very beginning, I really thought that Consecration would have been, like, his best chance to come back. But, of course, it was very slim already.
Yeah, if he did manage to everything go his way, then he might have been able to stabilize with the Lay on Hands the turn after, because he'd actually have a little bit of a board to deal with. But not a very high chance that would happen, but probably his best way out. But next matchup is going to be the same thing, just with the roles reversed. So
Right.
backspace is going to be on the Paladin.
Just because you won with it doesn't mean you stay on it. But until we get to game 4, you can pick Paladin or Warrior again.
Yeah.
And I like bringing Paladin just because, like you said, the Warriors, they're out and rampant. So you need to have a way to deal with it. It's time for backspace to be on the punishing side because you have those 1/1s. You have the ability to be really annoying back at your opponent. And I think backspace is feeling really good about this one.
Yeah, and these guys, 2 decks, look very, very similar to each other. As you can see, the Dr. Boom from Powder. That doesn't really tell us much, because there's still the explosive sheeps and whirlwinds that sometimes warriors take out and trade for other things. But the knife juggler as well. You said that's pretty popular now, especially with the synergy with Muster for Battle. It gives you a little bit of an edge in sort of the aggro matchups. It allows you to deal with those a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, even control sometimes as well. The little bit of pepper damage. I mean,
Yeah.
the way you can think about it is just, like, why is Goblin Blast Mage so insane? It's because you can get so much tempo based off the way that the
Oh, yeah.
random hits happen.
Yeah.
It's the same concept as the Knife Juggler. If you get the Muster for Battle synergy.
Yep.
But, of course, that's just idealistic. It's just, like, another thing that can work well in the deck, but Knife Juggler isn't like the main win condition at all.
Yeah. Wow. Could have been pretty good if that Knife Juggler had seen the next turn, but Muster for Battle still a pretty fantastic card.
Ooh.
Oh, that's going to be nice.
That's really good. The fact that it's not necessarily shutting down the weapon. The tempo play is, like, not particularly amazing.
But the card draw is...
It is, because you have to use the Fire War Axe to keep the tokens as low as possible.
Yeah.
Like, you just need to. And you hero power because you're trying to play the greed game. You don't want to lose your Life's Justice for no reason.
Yeah.
But I'm sensing a Harrison Jones here. There's really no other play.
Yeah, especially since his hand right now, he's probably not too happy with it. So, getting those extra card draw. I mean, of course, it's just going to get True Silver down, but still, the extra draw that you get from that and actually making use of the Harrison when you can is good. Very good.
Yeah, and you know, you bring up a good point. Backspace is not necessarily torn over about this too. You know, he still has True Silver Champion. Now that Harrison's out, he knows Tyrion can't get taken his weapon as well.
Yeah.
It's really common sometimes just to kill off Tyrion and just steal his Ashbringer.
Yeah.
So,
is there any merit to being greedy with your Harrison Jones, especially against Paladin?
sometimes in the late game, for sure. I think, generally speaking, if you're playing a control deck like Warrior or Paladin,
Yeah.
it scales into late game. Especially against decks like Handlock with Jiraxes. It's good to have Harrison be the ceiling deal.
Yeah. Well, a little bit of an awkward play here. Throwing down the Acolyte doesn't seem that great because you know that it's just going to get True Silver down and you're not going to get much out of it, but you can actually Taskmaster it.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty solid play.
Okay.
You don't really have anything else on turn 5. The cool Taskmaster is a little bit hard to part ways with when you have Execute in hand, but you already have Whirlwind, so
Yeah.
I think it's less necessary. And, you know, in a way, it's like you might develop something else better, too. Oh, if he targets the 1/1, that's an interesting creative play. I wasn't considering that. Just because you normally, like, drawing cards is just so good.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
That's interesting.
You
Because
know
either
what?
way,
He's
that
playing around probably the possibility of Quartermaster. That's like a new card that you're not necessarily thinking about.
Yeah.
But, like, you never know if he, like, has the ability to just buff it and then, like, completely shut you down.
Yeah. But on turn 6, that seems a little weird because he wouldn't be able to do anything besides Quartermaster. He'd
Let's say he
float
had
one
nothing
mana.
else in his hand.
That's true. Very
Like,
true.
A Quartermaster would still put out a 3/3, so for 5 mana, you put out Or I guess for 7 mana. How many stats do you put out there? 13? That's pretty
Yeah,
decent.
yeah.
That's like Boulder Fist Ogre status.
Yeah. It's like the vanilla benchmark card.
Right, exactly. So even just one token, like I completely agree. It's like the same effect as Kel'Thuzad though. Sometimes just seizing the board and taking control of it is just as good, if not better.
Yeah. Not having to make use of whatever value you would get out of that. So, Humility is an interesting card, and sometimes it can be a little bit rough to float that in your hand, but I really like that in the control matchup. You talked earlier about how far the Paladin hero power goes, especially against Warrior, because it can be really annoying to deal with those 1-health creatures, so not having card advantage isn't that big of a deal. So using that one card to help you gain a little bit more advantage, control over the game and of the board, I think isn't that bad of a thing. Against some classes, the Humility can just be sort of a liability in your hand, a pretty dead card that will only sort of delay the inevitable, especially against aggro decks, but I really like it in control matchups.
Yeah, well, if he has Pyromancer, it makes a lot of sense.
That as well.
Well, I guess now that the Death Spite's out, the previous play doesn't really matter, but I was also interested why Backspace killed off the 1/1 to the 2/2 with the Sludge Belcher. Here we go, though. Tyrion gets slammed down immediately, and is there a way for Powder to deal with it / even steal it, maybe? Sylvanas comes down. Too bad you can't execute it, though. Still funny, even a year later.
Yeah, I think that'd be a little bit overpowered. Can't shield slam it.
Here's the thing. How about spreading out the threat here? If you muster for battle, and then... Because you have to deal with this. Like, you can't leave Sylvanas up, right?
Yeah.
Because then if he brawls, he guarantees steals what it is.
Yeah.
Or like Whirlwinds.
Muster
so that
for
you
battle.
need to hero power, and then try to see that the 1 in 4 takes it. Backspace doesn't even want to look at what's getting to get stolen. I mean, it's a 1 in 5 chance.
Oh, no! Wow, that is heartbreaking right there. Whoa.
Oh, man.
That is...
And Powder draws, like, even if he didn't steal it, he would have had a way to deal with it.
Yeah.
Oh, man. What is happening in these games? The Warrior is flipping the Paladin upside down, dunking it in the water, and giving it wedgies. I have no idea what's happening in these games anymore.
And now he's...
I mean, just slam Rag and pressure him. You're about to kill him.
Yeah, but
I guess you're afraid of it extending into equality, right?
That's true. Shield Maiden is... I think Shield Maiden's a great card to put out right now. Because even if he...
I'm just so aggressive. I just like playing the Rag.
Well, even if he clears the board, you're still getting something out of Shield Maiden. I'd rather play defensive in that situation because, well, I don't know.
You get plenty, too. You put him at 11 health. If he spends his entire board clearing, I mean, I guess it's because...
But if you don't have, like, a way in your hand to kill him if he clears the board, then... I don't know.
You still got 15 points of burn down through weapons.
That's true. Gorehowl is a big deal.
I'm just aggressive. Just don't mind me, man.
I'm a very conservative player. I'm a far right Hearthstone player.
Far right. Oh my gosh. But just don't open a news network because I'm not gonna watch.
It's only for Hearthstone. Don't worry. Don't worry, Dan.
Alright, well, Backspace needs to figure out a way to stabilize. He already used his Humility, so the Kodo's not going to be that useful. Quality Consecration to come out here. And he can follow it with the Shield Bot, so that's reasonable. And he's not going to die unless his opponent has Cruel Taskmaster and the Gromosh.
Yeah. Shield Bot.
Oh. I wasn't actually thinking about him using his own face. That's really clever. Oh my god. I actually just didn't see that. Backspace killing off Tyrion to replace the Death Spite and activate the Whirlwind so he didn't have to use Consecration.
Wow, that's nice.
That was a sexy play.
And I think that puts him in a little bit of a better board state even than using the Equality Consecrate.
Right.
And he's got that later on for even some bigger threats like the Rag that's pretty inevitable at this point.
Yeah, it is true. The Ragnaros could hit the Divine Shield and knock it off. Again, that was a really cool play the more I think about it. Nicely done, Backspace. Uh-oh, Bomb Lobber. I don't feel really good about this one. I feel like it's going to hit a recruit.
Yeah, he actually hovered over the Whirlwind for a second, which using 2 cards to clear off an anti-heal
Well,
bot and a Silverhand recruit.
If you whirlwind, most likely you'll have to.
Well,
You'll have to like shield slam or execute.
Oh
play
no!
rag.
Well, the game has gone Powder's game.
He's so defensive. He's so defensive. He's just waiting. He's waiting for Gromosh. He's saving whirlwind. He says that's my activator.
But against Paladin, you give them a little bit of room to breathe, and all of a sudden they're going to be at like 30 health.
Well, maybe not even just a health count, but cards like Ragnaros lose a lot of effect against classes that have tokens.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, going back, I like your play.
Of ragging a long
Rag.
time ago.
Yeah, because ragging on an empty board against a Paladin is a luxury that you don't always have. And they can not flood the board, but you said those tokens just make rag not that great. So getting that 8 damage to face when you can is okay. And his hand wasn't the greatest for being able to finish him off, but it's still pretty good. Having a Gorehowl in your hand and a Death Spite is a fantastic way to finish off a Paladin, especially since Tyrion is already gone.
Well, I mean, all the heals in hand actually didn't really make that big of a difference, though. So I think in the end, the consequence was about the same. Here we go, the Ragnaros from backspace. And this is an opportunity for him to once again climb back. But, of course, we're all just waiting for the inevitable Gromosh rip off the top to try and seal away this game. So as much as backspace effort to climb back,
Ooh.
Powder still is on a draw to win the game from this point on. Until he gets taunts or a way to heal up, he's always in threat of dying. Also, I guess, do you execute Whirlwind Execute, though?
He was actually 1 damage off lethal there.
Oh, you're right, because the Ragnaros.
Whirlwind Execute Ragnaros. This is good, though.
Yep, I really like shutting down the 1/1s. You might ask, why is he using Whirlwind to just shut down a few tokens? The Quartermaster is a very realistic threat.
Yeah, and even also it makes it so he's lines himself up for an additional win condition with his Ragnaros, keeping the board clear from those 1/1s. Makes
Sure
it
is.
pretty fantastic for your Rag to be able to come down. So, well, the shielded minibot is very annoying. It might not be the most effective card in the late game, but it serves its purpose.
Yeah, I think you go for the 50-50 to win, though, right? Do you just... Oh, I guess Dr. Boom, does he change things? I don't know, like, it's almost too good to pass up, isn't it? It's like right here. Right here, you can potentially just win.
Yeah, why not? What's he gonna do? You
Oh,
still have Gorehowl in your hand.
Miss.
And
And he just Kodos you right back with other Peacekeeper.
all right.
No! The series is tied, and Warrior has struck back. And we have liftoff.
All right. Well, Paladin struggling a little bit right now.
Well, I mean, it's struggling because Warrior is somehow scrapping the game through. Like, it's the Warriors are just barely like stabilizing, and then like
stealing a Tyrion.
Yeah, I mean, like that wouldn't have happened in most games. It just happened in this one.
Yeah.
And you know, it's one of those things where it's just like it's so frenetic and so like the thing's so frantic. Sorry, that's the whole thing just feels like pretty sloppy. It's like, oh well, I'm just like rushing to do damage, and I'm not having Gromosh, so I have to find other ways to kill you. So I'm just gonna Ashbring you 3 times to the face, and then try to use Ragnaros to hit you. It's like these are conditions, win conditions that you don't really expect.
Yeah.
But you know, good on Powder to be able to roll with the punches and be able to get revenge because he lost the Warrior versus Paladin. That was a really devastating defeat there.
Yeah, these games aren't going as late as you might think with the classes, but this one's going to be a little bit quicker. Hunter versus Warlock. Now, a couple weeks ago in this tournament format, you'd see Zoo quite a bit, but yesterday we actually saw most of the players bringing Handlock over the Zoo, so...
It might be Zoo. Powder was playing Zoo earlier today.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that might be a reason for Powder to not bring Zoo, but it might be all the reason that Powder just still plays Zoo.
Yeah.
For every argument you can make for it, there's the same one you can argue against. And in the end, Backspace still has to honor whichever weak matchup he's weaker against.
Yeah.
If you're weaker against Zoo, then you have to mulligan for Zoo. If you're weaker against Handlock, you have to mulligan for Handlock. So that way you can bounce back appropriately. Now, even if it is handlock, though, which was supposed to be like the better matchup in the past, or Zoo even, things have changed a lot since GVG.
Yeah. Yeah, it's handlock once upon a time, a few months ago, was considered a very, very weak matchup against a lot of Hunter decks out there. But nowadays, handlock has a really good chance of beating Hunter. And I would even put it close to 50-50, if not giving the advantage over to the handlock. They have a lot more tools at their disposal, especially with anti-Keelbot, but doesn't look like this is going to be a handlock.
No, I mean, he has double kill command. If it was handlock, that'd be great, I suppose.
Yeah.
But you need those later on, even if it was handlock. He's got Knife Juggler and Unleash the Hounds. And look at this. Powder is playing Zoo, but he has no turn 1 play. So then Backspace might be like, okay, it's handlock. And then the Noitron or Haunted Creeper comes out here and he's like, oh wait, it's Zoo.
Noitron definitely lives up to its name. Haunted Creeper also. Those are two very, very tough cards to deal with.
Yeah, I suppose so. Well, you definitely want to keep your Knife Juggler and Unleash the Hounds now that you see that your opponent is playing Zoo.
Yeah.
Because there's no way handlock's playing Haunted Creeper.
Unless it's a next level handlock.
Nope, not even.
Not even a little bit?
Nope. Absolutely not even possible. Well, Backspace gets Animal Companion off the top. Not Hover.
Oh, that's good.
Pretty good. It still has ways to go through it, but it takes a lot of damage away from his face. Like, the Hunter needs to stall for as long as possible until Unleash the Hounds and Knife Juggler can bring him back into the game.
I actually think that would be one of the situations where it actually wouldn't mind seeing Leahawk just because you do have that Knife Juggler Unleash the Hounds.
Effectively the same thing. It has Taunt on it because you know what it can do.
Yep.
Ooh, well, here we go. Knife Juggler and Unleash the Hounds is very effective, and you also have Bomb Lobber on curve.
And Savannah Highmane on curve after that, so I'd say this is pretty good. These juggles are going to really matter.
Just not to the face, really. That's all that matters.
Oh.
Ah. All right. Reasonable.
Yeah.
Like, it's like an average result. I think it's also okay that it didn't hit on the juggler because most likely you'll be able to kill it off.
Yeah.
Oh, man. What an awkward draw for Powder.
I think
really awkward.
This is just an awkward first 5 turns for Powder, I'd say. Not having a...
You Soulfire the Knife Juggler?
Oh, yeah. Because I'm not too happy with the hand that right now. How Overwhelming is probably... I'd want to keep that, especially for this matchup.
Wow. Well, he lined up a Bomb Lobber pretty nicely. But if it misses and it hits the Defender of Argus, I guess you're not even that upset either. You have Kill Command.
Yeah.
Does he give up his Hound in case Kill Command? I suppose not.
Yeah.
Because now his opponent will want to deal with the Bomb Lobber, right?
Or maybe not. Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to want to deal with the Bomb.
Yeah.
So even if he has Kill Command, it's pretty inefficient. But Unleash the Hounds number 2, not bad. Not bad at all. And that's bad news. Powder can't lose his board like this. But Kill Command will help seal it.
Yeah, and he's actually got a really strong hand as well with the Savannah Highmane. That's a super tough card for Zoo to be able to deal with, especially if you can lay it on a pretty empty board.
Yeah.
It's very, very tough. And if you're taking a couple shots to the face of 6 as Zoo, you're not going to live very long.
I've always mixed on Savannah Highmane. I mean, it has really good value, sure. But I always feel like it's a little too slow to play. Just because, like, in this scenario, it's fine, because he's actually at a really high health.
Yeah.
But a lot of games versus Zoo, Highmane just, like, gets stopped by a Voidwalker, and I'm like, well, that sucks. Or, like, even a Defender of Argus on, like, you know, like a 2-1,
yeah,
like a Leopard Gnome. Like, well, actually, he just gets stopped by really pitiful creatures. And a lot of times I care about quantity of creatures more than quality.
Yeah.
Because you have to match toe-to-toe.
Yeah.
Doomguard off the top here is such a big draw, too. The fact that he's able to start fighting back. And he's worried because Hunter can race so much more effectively. He's afraid of even life tap at this stage.
Yeah, well, if we know that looking at Backspace's hand that he has a lot of burst, and that's going to be a good draw as well.
Is that lethal? No, it's close.
No, very close.
I think you do it, right? He only has 11 damage on board. He has to generate
He's at 29 health.
18 damage in one card.
Yeah.
You just put him on 1 health. Just kill command the face. And now, if this card isn't Alex Straza, there's no way for Powder to win this game.
Yeah. And I am 99.9% certain that that will not be Alex Straza. That's a Clockwork Gnome.
Close.
Very close. Probably the closest card to Alex Straza.
Well, Hunter stabilizes against Zoo. Those Unleash the Hounds were so key.
Yeah.
So key for backspace to be able to stabilize, just to match toe-to-toe. I mean, he needed some AoE. And I'm not sure if he's running explosive traps or not. So if you don't have those mad signs and explosive traps to open the game to stabilize versus Zoo, even then, explosive trap, you need a little bit of help. And the Unleash the Hounds is the key.
Yeah. So a couple key cards there that really help turn the matchup for Hunter. And backspace is able to get him. So we are going to go into that blind pick phase. Now these guys can choose any one of the 3 decks that they've played so far.
Yep.
And their opponent will do the same. They don't know what they're going into when they pick their deck. So we'll see if we can get in that versus plate in just a minute. But what do you think they're going to go with here? We have to look at the matchups.
We have Hunter, Warrior, and Paladin versus Warlock, Warrior, and Paladin.
Yeah.
I really like the Warlock, generally speaking.
Okay.
I guess against Zoo, Hunter, you're like meh, but against Paladin and Warrior, you're feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
I think if Powder's feeling confident in his Warrior as well, he can do that too, because Warrior's decent against Hunter.
Yeah.
And for on the flip side of things, it really depends on how confident backspace is in the Warrior as well. I think he can bring Warrior. It's just that you don't want to match up against Paladin. It's really tough.
Whoa.
So I guess he's not as confident, and he's going to go with Hunter. And of course, I'm thinking Powder brings Warrior as well. So I think this matchup makes sense, but it's not favoring backspace as much.
Yeah.
Although maybe the percentages have changed though since GVG came out, and I'm not terribly certain about who's exactly favored here. Before it was pretty even 50-50.
I think the Warrior is actually a little bit better now against Hunter than it once was.
I think so.
At least from personal experience. Granted, there's a lot of players that are trying out new variations of Hunter, and trying out new things in Hunter. So it's always not a great thing to look at win rates at the early in the season or early after new cards are released, because it doesn't give you a good representation of especially competitive play. But it feels like Warriors got a couple more tools, and Hunters didn't get any more tools. So like,
come on, man! They have actually great tools.
What tool did they get? Clockwork Gnome?
That's great. It gives you another card instead of Leopard Gnome for damage. They also have Glaive Zuka, which is pretty reasonable.
But Shield Maiden.
I mean, Shield Maiden's great.
The Warriors are starting to tech in Whirlwind a lot more than they used to, because they have the ability to. So I think that's a good card against Hunter as well.
Wow, what a poor start from backspace.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's almost as bad as it gets. He has almost like no play until turn 6. Like he's got Eagle Herbo next turn. Like the ultimate cool story, bro. Okay, well he's got Animal Companion.
Okay, that makes it a little bit better.
Big deal. Nice. That is a really good roll. And Powder is pretty upset.
Not only did he top deck that, but he rolled the best possible choice. So.
Exactly. He needed that because the Armor Smith could have snowballed the game. So Powder definitely is not happy to see it.
Yeah.
Well, if I think he has to use the Fiery War Axe here. It's too easy to just be assuming that Acolyte can challenge it, and then he just plays the Equal Horn Bow.
Yeah.
Not to mention, you have to play around the possibility of Houndmaster.
You don't like Execute right there?
No. You need to use Execute for like more legitimate threats. You know that there's gonna be the high mains. The reality is, it's not about the early game damage in this matchup. It's about the mid game damage, because what happens is they stabilize. Like Warrior will stabilize at one point. It's all about how much health they have, and the way that Hunter pushes through is through high mains. So I think you need to be able to keep your removal for your high mains. I think it's super high priority, at least in my opinion.
Sometimes I get a little bit afraid that if I take too much damage early on with a bad hand, that I won't be able to stabilize quick enough.
Right. I mean, it's definitely something that's in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
But I think Powder realizes, well, I'm still in the 20s. He also had a pretty slow start. he skipped turns 1 and 2. He
That's
has
true.
to have a heavy hand, and
Yeah.
I need to be able to save my removal accordingly.
Yeah. A lot of times that'll only happen, in my case, I'll use the execute on something early like that if either he has a big board presence or my hand is terrible. And I know that I'm not going to have many follow-up plays, so I need to rely on keeping the board clear.
Powder had an interesting set of choices here. He could have set up a weapon to try and go for a whirlwind clear.
Yeah.
And then draw off his Acolyte.
Yeah.
But that's too slow, I think. I think he realizes very quickly that he needs to try to stabilize. Now, these high mains back-to-back. We were talking about this. This is how Hunter, in my opinion, is favored in the matchup, because when it's like you put the high mains down and you slam it, and Warrior usually doesn't have a response to it as easily as you think, it's going to be in trouble. But that's where getting this Cruel Taskmaster was massive. You
Yeah.
can execute this now.
Well, going back to the last play, I don't think going with the Despite is actually that slow of a play, especially since you know next turn's turn 6. Because
It's the faster play. The slow play is to play the Acolyte and armor up.
oh, okay. Well, the Despite play, I think that's the better play in that situation because it helps you, especially with executes and an owl in your hand.
Sure.
You could clear the entire board next turn if you have a developed Despite in your hand, because you
Yeah,
could
that's true.
you could hit the Haunted Creeper, silence the high main, and then execute it.
You're at less health, though, I suppose.
Would you
And
be?
now that you have 2 Despite, I think in hindsight you might be right.
Yeah.
But of course, it's always easier for us to tell because we have the advantage of information.
Yes, we do. Why doesn't everybody just watch their own games with both point of views?
Careful what you wish for, man. Ooh, Harrison Jones to disarm the Eaglehorn bow. Well, that's going to come useful maybe in a couple turns, but for now he still needs to deal with his threats. He's got Despite, Shield Slam, and I think you want to use Shield Slam here, right? Because you want to keep the execute for the high main.
You want to use Shield Slam in this matchup whenever you possibly can, because you're not guaranteed to have armor.
So Harrison Shield Slam also is viable. But if you go Despite, you can armor up after you hit the spiders.
Yeah,
Not to mention that you also have execute ready for the next turn.
yeah. I
So
like the
this is pretty
Despite
strong.
Shield Slam. Because you want to be able to armor up whenever you possibly can at this point. I mean, you're pretty stable. You're above 20 health, but at the same time, your hand isn't that great, and there's always a chance that a couple big threats will come down and you just won't have any way to deal with them. Or you won't have the health as a resource to be able to deal with them.
Oh, this is clever. Backspace wants him to use the charge. He's
Yeah.
selling like he doesn't have the high main.
Yeah, this is pretty clever.
And, I mean, he's still putting out 4 points of damage per turn because of those extra tokens. So
Yeah.
it's like a legitimate clock where you can't just armor up and net neutral it.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, Backspace got the angry chicken. I don't know if Powder can bounce back from this.
Oh man, that's rough. Especially with beasts being added to the game that are actually really good. It just hurts even more to get angry chicken or hungry crab.
All right, well, in all seriousness, Backspace does have a trap up. Is it freezing trap?
It
Ooh,
is.
it is. So he can freely play this high main, be protected on the board. Powder will have to test for it just in case it's snake trap. He's got Whirlwind Execute.
Not too bad. Not
Yeah.
too bad.
He's got the cards to try and stabilize. Oh, he's got Bomb Lobber. Of course. It's even better.
Getting value to that while you can. Alright, well, he's in a pretty good spot now because he has a lot of ways to be able to continue to stabilize. He's been through both high mains now without even using the second execute. And he has Alexstrasza as sort of an emergency or as a way for him to push for lethal on his opponent. So, did he just hover over his face with that kill command?
Nah, he's just messing around. Might feel like it's close to like being locked out because Warrior has stabilized at plus 20 health, and you haven't actually gotten too close. You do have kill commands though and Unleash the Hounds. Question is, how do you use these spells in hand? Do you use them at all? And it's still not exactly clear if Powder can completely stabilize without just dying, because there's still some legitimate damage on the board here.
Yeah. I think Alexstrasza makes him feel pretty safe.
Yeah.
You just got to stay out of range of burst. And
Oh,
the shield
Maiden.
maiden. Oh man, that's gonna be. It's just looking pretty rough for backspace right now. As soon as you let the warrior stabilize, unless you can piece together a lot of burst very quickly, like double kill command with like an eagle horn bow or something, then it's pretty game over for you.
Yeah, Powder got the right tools at the right time to disarm the hunter.
Not being able to do anything on turn 1 or turn 2 was pretty rough. Pretty rough for backspace.
So he's out of high mains. His web spinner didn't get anything useful. What other forms of like minion damage does he have outside of this Knife Juggler?
Maybe Lotheb?
Maybe Lotheb. I don't know if he's running like another Houndmaster to pair with like Animal Companion. I think he's just going to be top decking the answer to win here.
Yeah. And will he even have the damage? Like if he draws into second kill command with Unleash, I mean he could put together like maybe 14, 15 damage in a single turn, but that's it.
Knife Juggler number 2. You know what? Backspace has yet to hit all of his Undertakers and waste benefit off of it too.
Yeah, so at this point it's actually getting more and more likely that he's just going to draw into an Undertaker from the top of his deck, and
yeah, exactly.
very useless draw at this point.
You know, Fiery War Axe is also really good here for Powder as well. So I think he just has to finally wear out the rest of the hand. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. There's just like, there's no end. There's no end to the life gain.
With shield maidens in Control Warrior now, they have so much ability to gain life, and armor is such a fantastic life gain tool because it doesn't even matter if you're at full health. You get value out of that armor regardless. You get health out of that armor regardless. And Shield Maiden, it puts a body on the board too, a really strong body on the board. So one of my favorite cards in GVG.
I think it's really easy to look at that game and say, wow, Warrior's great against Hunter, but I still think
it is.
I just gotta disagree, man. I think there's like Backspace got the worst start I think I've ever seen. It did get redeemed by the Huffer, but that start was just awful. You just really had nothing from turns 1 to 4, and then things just didn't look good at all. And when you don't have that good snowball start with the Undertakers and whatnot, then I mean that's just what it is. The deck just whiffs.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good answer to anybody who ever wonders, well, if Hymane's so good in this matchup, should I keep it? No, you need a much quicker start than that.
Yeah. If you give the warrior a chance to stabilize, then it's almost always going to turn out bad. And if you're having to play a Savannah Hymane on an empty board or on a board where the warrior has control, then it can be pretty rough, especially if your opponent's still at like 30 health with, or 20 plus health is even good place for a warrior at that point.
So now going into game number 5 is tied 2-2. Both players can still play any of the 3 decks they want, and they both switch. This is the first time that we've seen either player choose to switch it up. In fact, every single series leading up to week 4, it's been the case where both players just choose to play the same matchup again. And Backspace has chosen Paladin into Zoo. This is probably what Powder wanted. I mean, of course he wants it because he has Zoo against Paladin.
Yeah.
More specifically, he was thinking, okay, well, I just showed my Warrior, and he thinks my Warrior is a very conservative pick against the field of 3. He might switch into the Paladin or even the Warrior Mirror, in which case I'll pick Zoo, because I just don't want my Zoo to go into Hunter.
That's a really great read by Powder, I think. And Backspace just not really having much faith in his Hunter after it sort of fell on its face in that last matchup.
Well, I mean, exactly. You just draw him properly.
Yeah. But I think this matchup is bad for Paladin, but it's better than it once was.
Yep. And again, guys, this is just to simulate more of a closer experience that you see to ladder, where you can try and catch players off the re-queue, right?
Yeah.
The other day, you know, there's a few people playing, and they hit a few people multiple times on stream, and they're like, screw it, I was playing Priest into handlock. I'll just queue up Hunter and see if I can hit the same handlock player. So,
yeah. It happens.
Didn't work out exactly that he was planned, because it's going to be Zoo, and Zoo is still good against Paladin. But let's see how much cards like Muster for Battle and Shielded Minibot can play a factor into this. I mean, Backspace knows that this is Warlock, that this is Zoo. Can he fight back from this position?
Yeah. Well, with spectator mode, if you guys are wondering where the mulligans are, if one person throws away their cards, you actually don't see either player's hand until both players are done picking their cards. So you can't spawn camp your opponent's hand, but
that's a great hand. Oh my goodness, that is a really, really good hand.
Oh.
I think Paladin is going to stabilize so well because Powder doesn't have the Undertaker start.
I don't think he'll even have to stabilize. I think he's going to be the one with the board early on here. Because I guess there's an okay curve for Powder. But, I mean, those creatures aren't going to be that great against. I mean, they're sticky.
Wow. Interesting. Well, Direwolf Alpha is actually a pretty good draw for the next turns as well. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's got Quartermaster with his Silver Hand Reviews. Wow. I wonder if Powder's going to feel the need to clear off the 1/1s as much as he can. Because a lot of times it's, if it's like a 1/1 and you have like a 2/1, you don't want to make that trade, so you often hit the face. But in this case, you have to clear it because he has the possibility of Quartermaster.
Yeah, but either way, it's tough to clear while also playing around the possibility of Consecrate. So there's so many follow-up plays that Paladins have now, especially turn 4, turn 5.
Well, let's see. Is this a possibility of Consecration coming? Pretty strong likelihood, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, he's got Equality too. Wow, 2 Equalities and 2 Consecrations. That's just ridiculous.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, the Equality is really good too. It does the same damage as Consecration effectively, like 2 to everything.
Yeah.
You also get the hero power. Well done. And Powder, he's gonna be pretty stuck into some tough situations.
He looks actually pretty frustrated right now.
Well, yeah.
Just with the way this game has gone so far.
Generally speaking, Zoo is supposed to overwhelm Handlock.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be a position where they can stabilize so early. And yet, he's just got all the answers. He's got taunts, heals, AoE clears. He's got a nuke to reset the board.
Wow.
I mean, there's nothing really that Powder can do from this spot. I think backspace already ran away with the game.
Yeah.
Well, that is one way. If this doesn't discard Doomguard, then it forces opponent to Equality Consecrate.
This is a really big deal. Oh, wait. That's perfect. That is perfect.
Okay, so he has to Equality Consecration this then. Unless he feels balls enough to like Equality and play something else. Okay, that's even better too.
Yeah.
The Pyromancer allows you to squeeze into hero power.
Do you think he values the body of the Pyromancer over the Consecrate? There's no possible way that could happen, because this way it allows him to put out a token as well, so... Powder is very visibly frustrated.
And the Pyromancer. Well, I still got bad news for Powder. He's still got more AoE too. He's got Consecrations. And next turn, he has Quartermaster.
Wow.
This is the very downward spiral of the Zoo deck not being able to build momentum off its board.
Yeah. All of our Peacekeepers actually pretty decent as well.
Sure. Well, I mean, you just hero power again, and then build up another possibility for a Quartermaster.
Yep.
Oh, Powder looks defeated.
He really does.
It's because he is. This is single elimination, guys.
Yeah.
This is game 5. Powder has to tap into Doomguard number 2.
Yeah. And even then, it's still going to be just...
difficult.
Yeah.
There's a Slush Belcher.
Yeah, playing an Argus on an empty board like this.
Oh,
Such an act of desperation.
Tyrion Fordring comes into the hand. Oh, backspace.
This...
He didn't have... I mean, he's so far ahead, he could have done anything here. And Powder knows what time it is. He's staring at potentially dying even the next turn. He's got 15 health. If his opponent has True Silver. Okay, I guess that's one way you can stabilize. But that's going to do it. Backspace advances 3-2. And a lot of these matchups, which we coined one way, has gone the opposite direction. That's what GVG does. Look at cards like Muster for Battle and how much work it did.
Shielded Minibot as well.
Shielded Minibot did all right. You know, it was good enough.
Yeah.
But Muster for Battle was so juicy. The fact that he could use Equality with it. He also got full mileage off of that. The Antique Heal Bot also coming into play.
Yep.
These GVG cards have been excellent for Paladin, to say the least. Now you can see why players are hyping Paladin as one of the best classes.
Yeah, and a few months ago, you would have said, well, Zoo versus Paladin, it's going to be a really quick matchup just because the Zoo's going to swarm the Paladin. But there you saw, that was a quick matchup just because Paladin stabilized like on turn 4, which is pretty ridiculous. And even though Powder didn't have the greatest starting of hands, he still had some things go his way.
Yeah.
Like he was able to play Soulfire and Doomguard on the same turn. But, Backspace just had every single
He hit
answer.
the nuts. That's it.
Yeah. Well, that was 3-2. So that was the end of the very first match. So Backspace going to move on. Of course, unlike yesterday, this is a best-of-1 format. So Powder is out of the tournament. He does have the ability to play in the future open brackets. Every single Sunday we do run that cup. So he can make his way all the way through that to try and qualify again for the open finals. But we won't be seeing more of him today.
That's right. Coming up on stream, we'll have Weifu versus Forsen. I know a lot of people are excited to see what Forsen can do in his tournament appearance since Goblins versus Gnomes release. We want to give a shout out to Crucial and Western Digital for sponsoring this event. You can check out all their stuff at esl.gg/Newegg Esports. We'll be back in a few minutes, guys, with more action. We're just getting started. Right after this, guys, Forsen versus Weifu.